Oye, mi gente,
Welcome back to the third season of Oye Mi Gente podcast. Thank you so much for sticking with us through another season. I'm eternally grateful to have you all tuning in. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I appreciate you as well. This is Viv Moran. I'm a multimedia artist from South Jamaica, Queens, and your favorite Tia. At this moment, I would like to start us off with our daily affirmation. I want to invite you all, my beautiful gods and goddesses, and everyone in between who tune in every week. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I invite you to join in as well. Affirmation: I am good enough, I believe in myself, and I am not worthless. Now that we have charged our inner spirit crystals, I would like to introduce you to our guests. Leo Claudio Jr. and Kenneth Dumeng. Leo Claudio is an entrepreneur, published photographer, and videographer. Born from Puerto Rican parents, Leo's diverse photo journey started professionally as a photojournalist intern with the New York Amsterdam News while finishing his bachelor's degree. The Brooklyn native continued his journey working as a photo assistant on sets for the House of Dairy On and captured the 2015 Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week for In Concept. The self-taught photographer then ventured into concert photography with Bounce Boat, and later that year he incorporated Leo Graphic Photography, where he continued to shoot for some of New York's premium concert venues, including Webster Hall, Bacha, Best Buy Theater, Mysteryland Music Festival in upstate New York. His work has been published by EDM NYC, Future FM, Exclusive, Beautiful Human Beings, and Imprint, to name a few. At the end of 2015, Leo moved to Boston to pursue a graduate degree in international business and continue expanding the reach of his photography. He worked with the Harvard Kennedy School, Royale, and within the underground Boston hip hop scene. In the span of 3 years, Leonardo became a staple in the Boston hip hop and was chosen to go on a 14-city tour with the Boston artist Oompa. After the tour, Leonardo concluded his Boston run with the 30-piece gallery, showcasing local and celebrity talent. Leo's unapologetic, celebrating activists in the music scene exhibition included live performances of Boston artists who used their presence to bring light to marginalized issues such as LGBTQ struggles, mental health, and racism. In 2019, he left his day job working at the bank to meet his brother in Puerto Rico to start a new project, Maria Se Fue, a documentary that gives a voice to local Boricuas to share their experience and road to recovery after the devastating Hurricane Maria in 2017. Kenneth Dumeng was born in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, and moved to Brooklyn as a young child with his mother. Growing up in the golden era of hip hop, he was molded by two cultures, having the New York state of mind with the soul from the campo of Puerto Rico. He is a multi talented artist on the side where he helps locals with creative direction. During the day, he works as a concierge. At the end of 2018, he moved to Puerto Rico to take care of his terminally ill stepfather. At the beginning of 2019, he and his brother Leonardo reunited in Puerto Rico, where they embarked on a journey throughout all 78 pueblos of Puerto Rico to give locals a platform to have their voice heard. Kenny played the instrumental part as production assistant, translator, mediator, and driver throughout the project. His creative direction melded well with Leonardo's vision for the documentary. Hurricane Maria in September 2017 devastated the entirety of Puerto Rico and caused a major humanitarian crisis. Originally a powerful Category 5 hurricane, Maria was the strongest storm to impact the island in nearly 90 years. Maria made landfall on Puerto Rico on September 20th at high-end Category 4 status, bringing a large storm surge very heavy rains, and wind gusts well above 100 miles per hour, 160 kilometers per hour, flattening neighborhoods and crippling the island power grid. An estimated 4,645 fatalities and an estimated 90 billion in damage occurred as a result of the hurricane. Still recovering from Hurricane Irma 2 weeks prior, approximately 80,000 remain without power as Maria approached. Suicide rate spiked after Hurricane Maria, especially among the elderly. Prolonged periods of no power and water caused many to feel the effects of pre existing mental health, such as depression. Even more profoundly, food and drinkable water was hard to come by, even months after the passage of the storm, which only compounded feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. Most were not equipped to handle the lasting effects of the damage the storm wrought on the island. Anxiety was on high among survivors as well, as we try to figure out how to survive day to day. On the west of the island, it was rumored that water was being pumped by AAA to homes from Huacataca. Further rumors stated that the lake was going to run dry. Though water service had returned, it was unreliable, and many still depended on bottled water to survive. The rumor of the lake running dry further heightened anxiety as families tried to figure out what to do if service was completely lost once more. Those that survived the storm and aftermath will likely never forget. Some even still feel the emotional effects while looking at pictures and recounting stories. Those that have the longest lasting effects are undoubtedly ones who lost loved ones in the storm itself and subsequent hardships faced afterwards. Some may still feel anger and outrage, as well as the seeming discreditation of what survivors faced as well. Some may still feel anxious about the thunderstorms also. Hi guys, how are you?
How's it going? We're doing well.
How are you feeling?
Excited. I'm happy to be
Good.
here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
How's your spirit?
On the up.
Full.
Yeah, awesome. So to start the interview, I would like to offer you two to take a deep breath with me. This interview may get a bit heavy, and I want to make sure I'm able to hold space for those feelings as well. Ready? Take a deep breath. Okay, let's start.
Ready.
That was awesome.
So tell me about the documentary.
All right. So the documentary, um, so we started in 2019. It's about giving a platform to the locals of Puerto Rico to tell their story about Hurricane Maria, and it's to allow them to tell us whether they're done with recovering when they're done. So it's whenever they say it is. So it's not because the media stopped covering it. It's not because the media stopped covering it. It's not because it's out of the mind of people in the mainland. It's when they say they're done. Whether it's when this documentary's over, whether it's been done when they got the light back on, or whether it's never done. Whether they're never done with it. It was our vision was to go through all 78 pueblos. So something that we haven't seen done. Um, where we were able to get a more holistic idea of what the road to recovery is, what was the extent of the damage, because Hurricane Maria wasn't a homogeneous hit. It was at different categories when it hit the island between 4 and 5. Different the way it hits the mountains is different than how it hit the metropolitan area, and the extent of how much recovery aid was able to get to certain places is totally different in each spot. So that was what we were trying to do.
Mm.
And on top of that is no long is not to n- the world kind of pitied Puerto Rico.
Mm.
What we're trying to show the world is they don't need pity. We need to celebrate their strength.
Yeah.
For the people who stood on the island, and it was something that came from one of the interviews that was very powerful. He said in the middle of his interview, he just stopped and said, "I want to thank everybody that day by day, sun by sun, saved Puerto Rico."
Mm.
So that's the message we're trying to get out.
So, what pushed you to make this documentary?
So my father lived in Puerto Rico, and our family's from Puerto Rico, from Aguadilla. I also have family in Calle, and I went back and forth every year. And after Hurricane Maria, I remember working my day job and the first photos that came out, and crying at as I'm trying to help customers, and it's like I can't do anything. Then I remember having my phone in my pocket, having my phone and missing my father's phone calls whenever he can get service.
Mhm.
And we heard the the most wildest rumors of where he is, that our house is gone, that we didn't have,
Mm.
that he was in the shelter, etc. Until we could finally get in touch with him. Then I finally, I think we went early February at
Yeah,
first.
right after the holidays.
Right after the holidays, my brother and I went, and that was probably the first time we went together in many years. And we saw, all right, it's not recovering well. Then my father got more ill because he was already terminally ill. He got more ill, and I took emergency leave to take care of him in the summer. And as I was there, Puerto Rico was still not where I thought it should be.
Mm.
And the reason I thought it was better was because our mass media wasn't covering it anymore. And it felt like, all right, we're getting somewhere. It wasn't. And from driving my dad to the hospital and seeing this, how bad the services were, or driving past neighbors' homes that are completely destroyed, and watching businesses that I went to growing up that aren't there anymore, or going to the local beaches that are completely restructured. And it was at that point, the idea started as a photo story.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to travel to as many as possible, capture it, and then tell the story. But it felt like it wouldn't do it justice because it's not my story. And talking back and forth with my brother, kind of came up with the idea of like, let's try to interview some people. We'll see how many people we can get, and then it evolved into let's do the whole island.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, like I remember I mean the news. Like I'm not Puerto Rican, but I feel as many times as I've gone there, it has slowly become my home. It's like a feeling that you get in your heart. It's almost like you could breathe,
Mm.
Hmm.
like you're free. So looking at those images and pretty much watching what everyone was going through, how the houses were like knocked down, it was just completely heartbreaking. I had my best friend's mom was out there, and también we could not find her
Mm.
at all. And they had like this little walkie-talkie app
Mm-hmm.
where my friend doesn't speak Spanish, but I was there literally like every day. Hey, I'm looking for such and such. They're at this location. If anybody knows, this is what they look like. I updated a photo,
Wow.
and it was just like, yo, like devastating.
It sort of makes you feel like this would be the same feeling like if you were at a war
Yo,
or like the aftermath of a war. You know,
It didn't feel real.
yeah.
a lot of people that we interviewed, they described what they went through as Vietnam.
As waking up to Armageddon, as an
Okay,
apocalyptic
so
movie.
when you hear that over and over, that really puts like an image in your head.
And we
Yeah. Because even like um 3 years ago I actually went to Hawaii,
mm,
and I went to go visit Pearl Harbor, and listening to the story that was going on over there, and how passive. The retired Marine there was telling the story. And I'm just like, at what part do they feel what they did was correct?
Right. Right.
Because currently in Pearl Harbor, there is a boat that's submerged underwater,
Wow.
still leaking oil.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And for him, it said, it's not that much, so it's perfectly okay. You see the fishes are swimming, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, he's brainwashed.
And then he said, the legend is, once all the survivors pretty much have passed and come home, that's when the boat will stop leaking. And I'm just there like, what? Like,
They print the myth long enough until it becomes a legend. Something like that, I think. That falls into that.
And with that, like with what happened with Puerto Rico, every single time the number of fatalities changed, and I'm just like, pretty soon this number isn't going to exist and they're going to tell us it's something else. Because even looking up facts, like I had to check with you guys, what are the numbers of fatalities?
And the hardest thing about it is, part of it has to do with with them being in debt. There's no department for statistics. So you go to one place and you go to 15 different websites, you get 15 different numbers. And now you're doing your own statistics, A few, thank God, like maybe 2 or 3 of them will give you maybe the same average, and you kind of just gotta stick with either your gut that you feel is right or what the people are saying on the island is what they believe.
Yo, I can only like imagine this whole entire like debt crisis. I feel like people don't understand how the US has Puerto Rico pretty much por el pescuezo.
Always been.
You would think that because Puerto Ricans have citizenship, they have the privileges that US citizens have. But that's not the reality.
No.
Puerto Ricans can't vote in Puerto Rico.
Can't vote in PR.
You can't vote in PR, so you have no control over who gets to govern the island.
Exactly.
That also plays a part in the debt. Because people are always going to miss information, miss money, keep money for themselves, not put it towards the island, which also happened with FEMA.
Right.
They did Puerto Rico the way they did the people of New Orleans and Katrina.
Of course.
And New Orleans is in the U.S.
And it was the same players involved, the same so-called help,
Like, there's still people out there with no running water.
Right.
How is the chemical dumping in Puñuelas? The water out there, people that live out there.
Very serious situation that's under the rug. Barely anybody knows about that.
Like, they're still continuing to dump ashes out there.
Yes, ma'am.
And then when Maria came, it moved a lot of ashes.
That's right. So you could imagine the contamination that's happening now
in the South.
And it's just incredible that people don't know about this stuff.
Yo, it's completely like heartbreaking, and I feel that the U.S. should have played a better role learning from the mistakes.
Definitely.
From Hurricane Katrina. When I went back to Far Rockaway, I saw, what was happening. I saw how Breezy Point looked. I saw how Rockaway Beach looked. But then I saw a bunch of the new houses have gone up. And I just started to think, like, so many people travel to Puerto Rico. You have all these celebrities who claim Boricua citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like appalled at how nadie mete la mano
Yeah.
to help out. You would rather build a baseball field
Right.
than bring back schools.
Right. Right.
And it's like, how are kids supposed to learn? How are they supposed to want a better life?
Exactly.
You know, there's kids that want to be doctors. And being a baseball player shouldn't be the be all and all.
Right. Which it's kind of like the government doesn't stray away of how they built us, you know. So it's sort of like natural for them. It's almost like natural for us to see this happen too, without like reacting in the way that we should be, you know. So it
Facts.
takes people like us to really see what's going on.
And show and tell that message.
Yeah, we have to spread it. It has, you know, we have to become the positive cancer right now and spread all this stuff out.
Yo, yeah. What was the most impactful moment while making the documentary?
You want to go first?
Let me tell you something, okay? To be very truthful, from the first interview, every time we interviewed somebody, we came home super enlightened, almost like on the next level of spiritualism even.
I'm getting chills just thinking about them. You know?
So from the first interview, okay? Now, I know for me, one of them that really stood out was with in Rio Grande, right?
Yeah. I think that was the first
These two gentlemen, the way they spoke, and these are people from the campo, you know? So you would think like their education is but so much, okay? They spoke in such a poetic form. And these must have been two of the most hardest people that, you know, hardest guys that you freaking are gonna meet.
Yeah, like you wouldn't want to mess with these guys.
And we're in a part of town that's pretty tough, you know. One of them was an basketball player.
He played for the national team of Puerto Rico,
Right.
And he was also
for the Pan American games
he
and
played
everything.
in the Pan American games.
So he's super known, super. I mean, they have like murals of this guy up and everything. The way they spoke, though, you know, one thing that he said listen, if Maria came 10 times after, it'll be 10 times I will invite her to dance. Because he felt that what we survived through over there, it made us that much powerful now.
Yeah,
that much stronger now. And something that came to destroy the island, to destroy the people, actually made us stronger and made us unite even more. The point of this whole documentary, I think, is the unity, is the resilience that we showed, is the heart that we have, you know? Because now when we were out there, every time we will be in a restaurant eating or just a place of business, whoever comes in, they're like, hey, que Dios te bendiga, que pase un buen día. If we're eating, hey, todo mundo buen provecho,
Yo, for
right?
real.
We don't,
real.
nobody knows anybody from Adam.
Yeah.
You know? And we'll sit there and it's something about that when you're gonna go eat and somebody tells that, it's chills go into your body, you know?
And it's like you can't even eat before 30 people bless your
Yeah.
For
food,
real.
you know?
Yo, I remember the first time I went there, I waited for a friend at Burger King. And all I had was French fries and a Coke.
Yeah.
And a guy was like, buen provecho, mami.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you.
And it's almost like the way things should be, kind of, you know?
It breaks the, you know, and coming from New York where we have one of the biggest personal spaces where you don't say anything to anybody. You don't even look at somebody.
Yo, for real.
It was so weird coming back. Like, I did a year out there right now. So coming back, it just felt like, it felt weird. It's not warm, right? It's like, and I came back in the summer, bro, and I felt the cold.
It's like you almost like, you notice how much of a disconnection there is once you get to New York. It's like everyone for themselves.
100%.
But out in Puerto Rico,
I'll tell you one positive thing that came out of all this tragedy that the people from the island kept on saying. They said, oddly enough, the best thing that happened was that there was no internet service.
No power.
There was no power because now they had to actually engage with the people that they were living around the whole time.
Mm.
Which, if things were regular, they would just go right by them, you know? So
Yeah.
now they're playing dominoes together, they're playing cards together, the kids are mingling.
It's like they became one big family.
Right.
I mean, like,
right,
they were always like
right.
in Puerto Rico, you could always find family.
Yes.
You could find family with a stranger.
Exactly.
You know, like going into, you know, the best places to go eat is in Calle Fortaleza. There's like a little joint there, people sitting outside.
Like a mom and pop
Oh
place.
my God,
Yeah.
best chicharrón.
That's what we promote. We
Yeah.
promote all the stuff that's inland, you know, not the franchise places to eat,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
I don't think we, a couple times when we needed a fast meal, maybe we'll
Yeah,
stop at
a couple
something.
of times,
But every other time, it was
right.
like,
It
and
was
that's
island
the cool
food.
thing about being over there is like, here you got to think of who am I supporting when I purchase something. Over there is like 85 to 95% of the people. It's a Boricua business, so I feel good spending my dollars at the food truck and getting,
Oh
you
my
know, like,
God. The best acapuria I ever had was
Us too,
in
from the-
Piñones.
Us too.
The little huts that
Yeah,
they have
yep.
there. Oh my God. Oh my God. And that's like one of the things that I thought of the most when Hurricane Maria hit was those businesses on that beach. They're all makeshift restaurants.
Yeah, that's their livelihood, you know.
Yeah.
They totally depend on whoever's gonna come visit, you know, the beaches. So now, you imagine the beaches is changed.
Yeah.
You know, the beaches are changed.
Yeah.
Now where they used to be the parking lot, now like it's all sand. The water goes up to there, and some of them the water retracted. Some
Oh, it's more water than sand, and like we're from our family's from Aguadilla, so we have Crash Boat, which is pretty famous on the island, and it was known for one of the few beaches where you can get food on the beach because we had the markets right on there,
right.
sunk right into the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We
like
got pictures of all that.
you walk by all the time, and it's just like, isn't they now they're
It's
reconstructing.
heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking because you would think that from all the tourism, they wouldn't have all these issues and all this poverty. But it's because of the tourism.
Right.
It's because of the trade system that they have there. I don't think a lot of people know how the trade works. So with the Jones Act, not only did it give people a citizenship, but when it came to trade, it made it impossible for Puerto Rico to have a trade system with other islands and other countries.
Right.
They can't receive any imports, any aid without it being on a U.S. boat. So which means that
American
whatever
flag boats.
goes into Puerto Rico first, goes to the U.S. to be dumped on a U.S. ship, for it to then come back to Puerto Rico.
Right.
And then Puerto Rico has to pay high taxes
Exactly.
for those imports.
Exactly.
High taxes because they were on a U.S. boat, and taxes because they were imports from another country that were on a U.S. boat.
Exactly.
100%. It goes and it's deep. So living there, I'm used to eating a certain way. I was pretty much vegetarian over here. I go in to get, let's say, strawberries, which you get like $3-4 over here. Over there, $7, $8.
Celery was like almost $15.
Celery, almond milk, if you want to try to be healthy, $6-7.
Yeah.
And we're talking about people that not many people are making more than $7.25, $8.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And imagine how can they be healthy, And Puerto Rico has one of the highest rates of diabetes. And it's one cycle. It's one continuous cycle.
Don't think they don't want you like that. Don't think it's not made like that for us to be going through the stuff that we go
then
through. You know.
when you're buying the produce too, it's not fresh.
No.
There's many times let me go get some tomatoes, and the tomatoes are rotting, the onions are
Yeah,
rotting, the
yeah.
plátano, and this is plátano that could have came in. Yes, it should have came in yesterday straight from DR, but it has to do this whole travel,
Journey
this whole journey.
Right.
before it gets to
The
there.
the
And you're not getting anything
aguacates,
fresh.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
The aid that tried to come into Puerto Rico.
it got turned down on the coast. It came to Puerto Rico, got turned down. They had to go back. This is the crazy thing. They went back to their countries, and then America lifted the Jones Act for, I believe, a week.
Mm.
It wasn't enough time for that
For them to come back.
To travel back.
Right. It's like a big
So
game.
it's like, it's like trying to show face. It's like, hey, we're trying to help Puerto Rico, but no,
But you're not really. No, you're not.
No, it's fake
You
help.
should have lifted it the whole time while we didn't have power.
That's yo.
The big saying was fake news. Well, Puerto Rico, we have fake help.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Like I also saw images of where they finally found the packages of bottled water.
Yeah.
So it happened twice. So it happened in Seba,
Mm-hmm.
and they talked about it in the documentary. And they did the drone, and it might have been a military guy who saw it and his heart broke, and that he was the one who leaked it. Over 1 million water bottles on the airstrip.
Yeah.
Expired.
Yeah. You can't leave them out like in the heat or anything
No,
like that.
no.
So
The BBP.
Yeah. So basically, the toxins that come in from that hot plastic.
right, exactly.
And then it happened again. It happened during the revolution in Puerto Rico with Rosselló.
Mm-hmm.
They found more water bottles in a random private field in Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
And then this doesn't include the containers that they found that Wanda was covering up.
Right.
Yo, that's crazy.
We're talking about food. We're talking about it's not just water.
Yeah, it's not just water, but it's food, and it's where people are literally starving.
Right.
Where people who are rationing water bottles. Who is like, we met families who were like, all right, we have one water bottle for the day for us 3.
Right.
You know, like it's
which is impossible.
And
that's not a big water bottle.
No, we're talking about 12-ounce, 16-ounce water bottle.
Right.
Like,
exactly, for 3 people.
Yo, that's crazy.
All right.
And it doesn't take away. Doesn't take away that there were some nonprofits who hit the ground running and delivered like life straws and stuff like that.
But there was still they couldn't get to everybody.
They couldn't get to everyone. We went to, it was in Las Marias, and when Las Marias, Hajuja, in the mountains. When we drove, it was crazy. There were times, legitimately, like no jokes, all jokes aside, we almost fell off the side of the mountain.
We thought we was gonna die.
We thought we were gonna die. There was times
we got
where
to
the
a
road
road.
stopped.
We're like so high up on this mountain in Hajuja one time, and all of a sudden the road just stopped.
We had to do 100-point turn to turn around. You know?
Yeah, literally, man.
And it was just like, I'm outside the car. I'm like, Ken, you got a little bit? He's like, nope. I'm going to inch. I'm going to inch.
You're on a thing like that where there's
right
side.
And it was a road.
Yo, driving up the mountains in Puerto Rico is one of the scariest rides I've ever taken.
And that's while the roads were good. So imagine after the storm.
And there was this one road, I think it was in Hajuja, we couldn't find a spot because, first off, the service is still spotty in certain places.
Yeah.
Everybody to find, like, there's no like street signs in the campo, so you're literally using location like GPS, WhatsApp,
and the GPS is not helping.
GPS is not. It gets you close. It gets you into town, and then
but
from
after
there,
that is
from there you need the Boricuas direction.
Yeah.
Like, you got to pass the third tree, find the big rock, take a left at a block.
Exactly.
And we got to one spot. We're like, yo, it looks closed. We're like, nah, but the GPS is saying this way, bro. We went up the whole thing, and there was biblical. It was biblical things on the side, like "Vaya con Dios," and like I'm like, bro, this is
man, this is not
There's crosses. I'm like, no, man, this is the end of us. Like,
I remember we got up to a certain point, and this lady comes out of nowhere like an angel, and she's like, "You guys, like, you got up here in this car? Like, you're
not gonna make it."
Like, she's like, and we're like, we already made it up to the thing. She's like, "How the hell did you make it up here in this car?" Like. you need like an ATV, like some type of all-terrain vehicle to get up here.
Chacho.
That was like it was just it was crazy, but it was all stuff that we were experiencing due to the hurricane. Like all these roads that GPS was telling us, yeah, we could get there, but no, nothing was updated. We couldn't get there. There was no more road. And this was a year afterwards. You know what I mean?
Almost 2 years after.
Almost 2 years afterwards.
And to finish the story with Las Marias, so they were so deep in the mountains, and the roads were so small. And when we interviewed them, it was a nonprofit, like this organization that created themselves called Campo, and they were like they're still delivering themselves. So these people are organizing to bring water still because there wasn't enough potable and drinking water in that town of Las Marias still. And they were like, we never got any aid.
Right.
No aid.
No aid at all.
We met a lot of people who we interviewed who were like, this town didn't even get touched by the military, by FEMA, by nothing. We did everything.
It was actually too many towns that we encountered like that,
And on top of that, the towns that did get FEMA aid or the military was able to land is because the people did the work. They cleared the roads themselves in machetes, or like farmers brought out their heavy machinery.
Or people who were licensed electricians were going out in the street, trying to fix up the wiring. People who did contracting, people, it was the people themselves that went and helped themselves, to. It's just crazy. The places that did get help, that I could say that did get help, it was always a reason for it. Either they had a university, a big school was there, maybe
a metropolitan area,
maybe a mayor lived in that area. It was always some type of tie to why they got help.
Yeah. I remember reading, I think I had a friend that came back. It was the status that they had posted where she went back, to visit just to make sure the house and the family was okay. She talked about the roads being all fucked up. But then when she got to Mi Viejo San Juan, it was like as if Hurricane Maria
never existed.
There.
The only thing with Viejo San Juan is there's still like the traffic lights don't work.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of times where the power will go out in busy streets, and it's like not a highway, but it's almost like a highway, and everybody's trying to cross at the same time. So they still get problems like that. But aside from that and Ponce, they're not seeing any real problems still.
Damn.
They all the tourist places were like helped like right away. So it's known that right after the hurricane, they had the hotels up in San Juan, and the FEMA people were in there gambling, and they were serving them drinks and all.
Wow.
There's footage on that. There's footage on that. It looks like like a night in Vegas, Meanwhile, all this stuff is going on outside, and these people were getting paid maybe up to $1,000 a week for working out there. They were gambling and having drinks.
Disgusting.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's wild.
What's good about it is that them being exposed, they were exposed by people that were very credible, like other military people and stuff like that.
To the point where one of the people in charge of FEMA and PR just got arrested a couple months ago.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes,
I saw that.
So people from FEMA were getting arrested. And then when the text leaked with Rosselló, a lot of that cabinet, it was like every day.
FEMA, you dirty rats.
People are leaving. People are getting snitched on, and it helped clean. But there's still so much more that needs to be clean.
Yeah, I feel like that text was a gift.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man,
it was a gift, even though
it was just scratching the surface. Though it was just scratching the surface. That's all it's doing. We're not in deep yet. I don't think. God willing, we could get deep, but the way it's structured, it's not structured for us to get but so deep. So we're actually, this is a super victory.
Yeah.
For us.
And it looked like almost, maybe it's the orgullo in us, the Boricua pride. But when that happened, it kind of showed the world like the people can make a change, Right.
Yeah.
And it felt like
how
right
resilient.
after that, how many countries are like the people all together, and they're out on the streets, and some are peaceful, some are not.
Yeah.
But Puerto Rico, I was in the middle of it. and it was peaceful, for the most part until they started shooting at us.
Right.
Yeah, I
got
saw
caught.
that.
We
Right.
got caught. I got caught in the crossfires. When they started tear gassing, and it was, it was crazy. But the people, for the most part, were very, very.
Puerto Rico started a revolution.
It was amazing.
They say that the revolution will not be televised. Puerto Rico proved that it will
I am
be
getting chills.
televised.
This one will be televised. This one is being
It is
televised.
How
so-
many countries right now have started their own revolution against their corrupt?
Yeah.
100%. We, Puerto Rico's a little island that can and could, like
Yeah.
they
The
really did.
resources that we have, the stuff that we produce, we grow virtually anything from anywhere. I've had vegetables from other countries that were grown there. The island itself is just it's rich.
Yeah.
It's very rich. And that's why America would never try to let go of us.
That's definitely very true. There's so many things that come from Puerto Rico, from the coffee, the sugar canes. You
The
got the
sugar cane-
Bacardi factory out there.
Sugar cane was taken away from us. If
Yeah.
you want to see how they grow sugar cane and like the actual machinery that they use for it, it's in museums. You
Yeah.
can't go to a field that they grow sugar cane because that was our number one thing that
Yes.
that made us money. That would have made us a world power, just our sugar.
Domino sugar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it produced a majority of the world's sugar at one point.
Yeah, and that was from a
American-
general
it was
from
American company.
American general who invested in all that, who took that away from us with the government and became like the head person for sugar.
I remember learning that actually when I went to visit the Bacardi factory.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things
Yeah.
that they spoke about was the fields of sugar and the molasses.
The molasses, which is very important. Come on.
Yeah.
And the coffee though. Now the modern thing is the coffee that we produce, and we're not able to make any money out of it.
No, that's a fact.
And it's we went down to one of the coffee farms.
Sandra Farms and
Sandra
Aqua
Farms,
Dust.
big shout out to Sandra Farms.
They were amazing.
The knowledge that was dropped
given
on
to
us on how everything is being done was very sad.
And gave us an insight about, he was a local farmer, but
Very sad.
so Hurricane Maria hit 2017, lost almost all his crops.
Mhm.
He lost so much crops that instead of making coffee, he harvested the beans so he could create chocolate with the coffee because he could make more
Mhm.
from that, and to have enough that he could still give people samples because Puerto Rico believes heavily into tourism.
Right.
So they still make money off people coming and seeing the farms, and they also host
like an Airbnb that's off the grid.
Yeah.
You get to help out with like the everyday stuff that goes on with the
it's
farm.
almost like wolfing, where people
It's
come
a
over
beautiful experience.
to help still clean up. So
Yeah.
so still with this, and he dropped knowledge. I believe I might be misquoting him. I gotta look at the interview again, but I believe it's not until 2021 where they will have almost a full harvest.
A full harvest, right?
That's amazing.
Right. That's exactly
4
right.
years
Right.
where they have to suffer through. Imagine if
Barely making it.
Yeah,
I mean,
barely
come
making
on,
it.
you're barely making it.
Yeah, I remember reading an article because at that time I was working in Starbucks. And I was reading an article that Starbucks was now opening up a Starbucks in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
The first in Puerto
Yeah.
Rico. I believe in Mayagüez.
It could be.
I think so.
I know there's one in Mayagüez and there's one in San Juan.
So now there's 2.
Mm.
Okay. So Starbucks apparently had brought in farmers from other countries to help certain coffee fields, certain farmers that where their crops were pretty much wiped out from Hurricane Maria, but to help them with how to regrow
Okay.
what was going on.
Right.
And I'm just there thinking this could be good and this could be bad. Because now with Starbucks being there, that's going to take away from the local coffee shops.
Any franchise that comes in, especially a Starbucks, you know, you're going to a place where coffee is like one of the main things on the island.
Yeah.
And you're introducing it to like this commercial Starbucks stuff.
The only difference with Starbucks versus like it being a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that is that Starbucks, I believe, whatever country they're in, they do harvest and use local beans.
Also, it's not just Arabian.
No. So,
but it takes away. My bad.
No. Continue.
But it would take away from like, so if they need, if they have big demand and they're using 80% of the coffee beans that are being harvested, that means it's hard for us to go to Sandra Farms again and have a local coffee there, or go to a local place and have like coffee that's from the island, and like that they're making, that they're grinding the beans in front of you.
Yeah.
Right.
So and it's going to make things more expensive now for the local coffee shops.
100%.
One of the good things that I learned about Starbucks, yes, they do harvest locally. Arabica is a type of way that they grow the coffee. How it's being grown, how it's being harvested. You know, Arabica is supposed to be the best type of coffee bean.
Okay.
One of the good things about Starbucks is, you know, even though the mom and pop shop hires 2 to 3 people, Starbucks hires 20 to 30 people.
Right.
And they only, depending where they are, if it's a community Starbucks, they hire only people from that community. Meaning, so like if you live in Mayagüez and you live maybe in Calle Dos, right? Within that vicinity, if you live in San Juan, they're going to encourage you to work in San Juan. Because that is made for that particular people.
Wow, okay.
So that's the gift. Curse.
Gift and a curse, yeah.
Is, yes, it does take away from the mom and pop, which is, you know, the livelihood. Yes, they might only hire 2 to 3 people, but those 2 to 3 people is all that they can pay for because of what is going on. From the interview, what was the most emotional point?
So
I think Maria is probably right.
Yeah, I think it might have. Coincidentally, her name is Maria.
We met an angel on earth, bro.
100%.
An angel on earth, man.
She's from Toa Baja. So that's Toa Baja is
a sunk-in.
It's like New Orleans.
Pueblo, you could say.
It's below sea level, and it's about 30 minutes out from San Juan, to the west of San Juan, and they have a dam as well. And they got hit heavily with Hurricane Georges, which was about 80 years ago, give or take. Maybe less than that. I could, sorry if
I believe it's like 80 years ago.
Yeah.
The last big hurricane.
Yeah. So Hurricane Georges came through and flooded that whole town. So a lot of people, all the people in that certain sector of the town, built their home 2 floors.
Yeah, floor up, so like the first floor is empty. It's like a marquesina.
Exactly. And she happened to build hers a little bit taller than everybody else's, from what she went through then, or her family went through then. And then also having no power, she was like, you know what? Instead of getting a small generator, I'm gonna get like the biggest generator I can afford, because it's quieter. The bigger it is, the quieter it is, and it's more power. So when Hurricane Maria hit, before Hurricane Maria hit, they opened up the dam. They're like, we have to open it, or else it'll crack and we'll lose it. Flooded town. Then Maria came, flooded the town even worse. As soon as it was done, when the wind and everything stopped, she had 14 people refuging in her home already.
Wow.
And she said the first thing she did was turn on the stove. She had power. She had gas. she cooked for everybody
For everybody.
because there's comfort.
She
in food.
bought a generator that was big enough to power like her and her neighbors and stuff
And
like
two
that.
other homes.
Right.
Wow.
And then, so this is gonna be a list of a superhuman right now. She is superwoman. So from there, she cleaned out the bottom of her floor. Her second floor was completely untouched. So she was like, all right, God has blessed me, and I need to give the blessings out. Basically, was what she was
Yeah.
saying. And our people are very very religious. Very
She's
spiritual.
and her single-handedly she organized like all the furniture that came in that people donated. A baseball player, I forgot which one
So
was it.
yeah, so she never did any kind of organization.
Mm-hmm.
She ended up
That's another thing.
she ended up calling Home Depot and going to Home Depot. I need X amount of tools. What can you donate to us? Went to the Coca-Cola company or whatever other company and said, hey, we need water. What can you
Yes,
donate?
ma'am.
And was just bringing all this stuff back. Then she organized her almost like a paranda, where she took she went door to door. She went to a neighbor's house. Said, hey, we're all gonna like me and you are gonna clean out your first floor of all the mud because Maria brought a lot of
Yes.
mud through.
But we're gonna help you out, and then you're gonna come with us to the next and that's basically what they did. They kept on
House
going.
by house.
So it was like a pajanda of
Yeah.
fixing people's stuff and helping
Wow.
them clean. Now you had elderly people.
Yes.
You had people that couldn't get up.
She told us a story of a guy who was sleeping, who they had to get him. He's used to being on a hospital bed,
Right.
but then they got him a beach
A
chair.
beach chair because it was like almost the
A
same thing.
recliner?
Yeah, like the beach chair, like an
Yeah.
actual beach chair that you fold out.
And they were until they finally got him a bed. Then she got in contact somehow with Jorge Posada, and
Everybody was Posada.
yeah, and Posada went to a hotel that was being
It was being demoed, I think, or something like
yeah,
that.
like
He got all the furniture from the hotel and donated it to us and
and then
everything.
she organized so the containers were coming every Saturday.
Right.
Wow.
So she would go to each house and be like, okay, what do you guys need? Like, what's the most important thing that you need? Do you need a bed? Do you need a couch? Do you need,
3
And
items
she,
per person.
right, 3 items per person.
So people
And
were
this is
going
in
with
her
a living
hometown.
room set. People were going with a bedroom set. But it wasn't people getting a set because they wanted a set. It's like, what do you
Right.
need?
What do you need?
You
Right.
know?
Exactly.
Do you need a microwave? Oh, we have a microwave's coming next week, so you won't get anything this week. Well, and
Right.
she did it all herself,
one-
and then with the kids, she got in contact with a nonprofit and was like, we got X amount of kids. Can you get them a present so they can have a Christmas, after Maria?
She made them a Christmas.
Made them a Christmas. Then the second year,
Jesus Christ, that's making me emotional.
we cried.
You don't understand.
We were in
You would
waterworks.
not freaking understand.
Then the second year, they wrote a letter, and the nonprofit was able to get each kid exactly what they wanted
Right.
Wow.
for their second Christmas.
Yeah. So that's when we got there.
Yeah.
Now it's crazy because she didn't have any type of exposure for whatever she did, for the.
It was just, I'm gonna get up and go.
We got there, and another thing that she taught us was that a lot of people became like her, almost like a Minuteman, where your life has nothing to do with anything like this. All of a sudden, the next day, you're like in control of getting help for people, and so this is stuff that was in them probably that they didn't know about, and it took this tragedy to awaken that person in them,
It was like not only did those winds and the waters clear up all the vegetation and showed how many people were your neighbors, it cleared whatever muck you had inside of you and showed you this is the better human being you can be.
And became human.
And
she
created micro businesses too. She created it's nuts. Like the list goes on, So she created it was a bunch of women who knew how to sew. So she got a contract with this company, and they were like, "All right, all you need is industrial
sewing machines."
Then she started a kitchen,
right?
Where they would cook for local workers, and they'll deliver to them.
Right.
They're like, all you have to do instead of you paying,
Uh,
$6-7 at this whatever
you
restaurant.
pay us
Pay us
$5,
$5.
and
We'll
you
bring it to you, and that way the money gets reinvested to feed the families that still need food.
right,
Cause
Wow.
there's families still over
exactly.
there that need food, that need water, that are too ill, who are mentally just incapable to live life by themselves now.
And at the and while giving that attention to the old people, still keeping in mind that these children that are gonna come out with
PTSD.
PTSD and everything, they're doing all these events and everything to kind of like bring them back to normal
Mm-hmm.
and take their mind away from stuff, which I think it's so important. The two most important things is to help the elderly that can't help themselves, and to help the kids that don't know exactly what they just went through.
Exactly.
You know.
And to piggyback off helping the elderly, so there was like a community center,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they set up the medical center because something happened with the hospital, so people can get to. But people had to drive. But we were going through a gas crisis, so people can't afford to drive,
Right,
or people couldn't
right,
get their
right,
cars out.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So she went and got scooped up the people that were in the medical center, brought them to her
Brought
first
them to her
floor.
house, to the first floor, and opened up like a medical, like a mash, like
Wow.
mash. Like
Yeah,
remember mash?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Something like that. But this man,
And now,
it's just so much to say about her.
and then last thing, and then she, when aid finally came, she was talking to people and she said, "Hey," she knew exactly how many families there were. It was like
Right,
100 something
right.
families. I have 100 families. Yeah, there's like 140 buildings, but X amount are abandoned. We have 100 families. What can you donate? And when you come here, you're coming with me, and I'm showing who you're donating it to.
Right,
I
right,
want you to have this personal connection. I want you
right.
to look at the people in their eyes, because they're not anonymous, and they want to thank you. They want to thank where the help is coming.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing.
A proud moment for us, I think you will agree, is that we share the light of what she did. We were like almost like the first ones to touch base on a broader thing
Hmm
for her. And then the very next week, she got
She was on like major TV and
the
PR.
news channel
They
came
picked
down
up
and
on her.
interviewed her, and now she was all over TV now. So
Wow.
it was like, oh, like it's sort of like we felt like we kind of like
Just
built that momentum of
yeah,
like
momentum is
exposure
real.
for her,
Yeah.
almost, because
That's
she needed to
amazing.
be, she needed to,
To be recognized.
of course. Oh
100%.
my goodness,
She
man.
deserves every accolade that comes towards her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All the blessings.
Oh,
All the blessings to Maria, because
yes,
that's amazing to be able to do that, like
and not knowing that it's in you.
yeah,
The night before,
showing strength.
you're not thinking you don't have a strategy, you don't have a plan, you don't have anything. After it happened, all this stuff just came to her, and it's like, it's amazing to me.
Mm,
What's in us, what,
for real.
the stuff that we can do. Sometimes you do need something tragic, to happen for you to channel that person in you.
Yeah. To become your true self.
Exactly.
Yeah. Since meeting with all of these people and listening to them talk about their hardships, what have you taken from this experience?
Our people are some of the most resilient people on earth. They, there was a lot of instances where, like we said before, they just got up and went. We're seeing 70-year-olds with machetes in their hands.
Yeah, that's a fact.
They couldn't, just because they didn't have just because they didn't have their washing machine didn't mean they weren't going to wash their clothes. They built washing machines. They
Wow.
built different things so they can continue to have
Yeah.
they can continue life. They didn't stop. I think that's one of the major takeaways I had from it.
Yeah.
With me, it's like of course it's the way that we can just get through stuff, with like minimum resources and stuff, that's like incredible. But I think that hurricane, when it knocked out the power on the island and everything, it made us become human again.
Yeah.
You know, because being human isn't the same thing as a human being. You understand? A human being isn't the same thing as being human.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it kind of brung the island back into like an old way of how we used to be. Because I remember visiting when I was little after I came after moving from there, just going back, and everything was like that. Everything was always la bendición, and everything was a blessing. Everything was,
Yeah.
and we kind of did get away from all that stuff. And I think it was because of with the web and internet and social media and all this stuff, we kind of got away of how we're really supposed to be, and
Yeah.
that kind of like knocked us back into that. So it like you have that feel like when you go over there now.
And it's like the Boricua spirit is unbreakable.
Hmm.
And it's going over there and people, my father and our block had a block party, like
Yeah, that's a
as soon
fact.
as soon as they got, I believe it was light, they threw a block party. And there's other spots. We have a section in a documentary that talks about artists that continued to produce art, that went to the middle of the streets and played music.
Right.
And people came out, and despite like my home may still not even have a roof, I'm dancing. I still have love in my heart,
Right.
and it's I think it's something that that culture and the traditions just didn't break, and it allowed them to remain human.
Right.
It's something there that allowed them to remain human, because it could have, some parts went dark, where
Yeah.
there is crime no matter what, but other places, we went to a lot of towns that were like, there was no crime here.
Yeah.
That's another thing that was weird too, because they have such a lane for like a lot of stuff to happen, which things did happen though. Not
Yeah.
to say that.
It wasn't all perfect.
Right.
We're not gonna sugarcoat anything and say like some, the whole island, not one single crime
But for
happened.
what could have happened, like the space that they
Yeah.
had to, like barely, you know.
Like, look at New York with one night of a blackout.
For
Right.
real.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't like the way that I grew up being from South Jamaica. I've chilled with gang members. When I was 6 years old, they were my neighbors.
Yep.
They've always told me to stay in school.
Right.
Convicts, like really dope people. Then there's really like goody people, that always go by the rules. And in growing up like that, it instilled in me to not judge people by the decisions that they make, because not everyone is afforded the same privileges.
Right.
Not
100%.
everyone gets the same cards.
We can't choose the cards that are dealt.
Exactly. Yes, you have to make do with whatever opportunity you get. But with that opportunity, what are you going to do when your back is against the wall?
That's right.
What are you going to do to survive? What are you going to do to feed your family? If your family needs XYZ and you got to go out there and take it and steal it, So I could only imagine how people out there in Puerto Rico felt not getting any help.
Right.
What choices do they have but going out there?
Prior to the storm too, right? Because I always talk, my family is very large over there, so I'm always getting like different perspectives on government wise, like the island, because what we see from out of the island is different from what these people are
Totally
actually
different.
going
Yeah.
through and what they're thinking.
Yeah.
So before, you had a lot of people. The island's always been split, but you had a lot of people for the government. Everything was always about the government. You speak to the majority of people, they were like down with the government. After the hurricane, everybody was like, F the government. Now people that never believed in conspiracy theories or anything, or even would look at stuff like that, now they were telling me like, oh, this thing could be man-made. And and these are people that were Pentecostal, going to church.
Yo.
But I'm not talking about my generation. I'm
Shit
talking about
changes.
elder generations that would never look at this stuff. I
And
have
it's
my
like
dad.
it opened their eyes.
My dad is like, yo, this is what's happening. This was gonna happen now. Blah blah blah. Blah. he's on it, and he's been like
Yeah.
Es como
freaking on
que
point.
they cut that blindfold off.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now they see things for what it really is. Because, I mean, like, religion is all good. You know, if you need something to believe in, if it helps you with faith, you know, because the Almighty and, like, XYZ. But one of the truest facts about religion was that it definitely was made to control people,
Of course.
to take
Mhm.
you away from how your ancestors
Right.
Yes.
used to be. And it kind of sucks that bad things have to happen to your homeland for you to be all like, nah, man, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
is the reality.
We're more rooted now with the culture. It feels like, because there was a gap. It feels like with these generations, my generation too, where we wasn't as deep with our own culture almost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of this storm, we're right back on our Boricuas shit, like for real right now. You
Can
know,
imagine.
which
Like,
art wise, food wise, it's just buzzing. You know.
yeah, because like for so long you have this like hold that the government has on people where it's like things need to be streamlined, they need to be XYZ, they need
Right.
to be a certain way. And then
Playing
because
on-
you've been fed this lie
Right.
by the government, and now you see that the government is like BS, they ain't
Right.
doing shit for you, they ain't doing shit for your homeland. It's like, nah, fuck that. Like, this is who I am, this is who I really am.
Mhm.
This is what my homeland is really like.
Right.
It's acknowledging the colonial mind state that they've been sold for many,
Exactly.
many years.
Exactly.
A lot of people. So like
And we've been hitting different levels with that. You know.
like the revolution that happened in the summer. It was, I saw for the first time. You know, I've been to a bunch of protests. We have many protests every other week in America. I saw people younger than me, 16, 17, 18. These were the leaders of this, ready to die for Puerto Rico. Where I'm talking to people and they said, I'm ready. I'm willing to die, and my dream is to see a free Puerto Rico.
Yo,
We taking it back to Albizu Campo days.
Yo,
now.
what
Yo, that
people had?
shit-
People had Albizu. You know, there's people our age who don't know who Albizu
Yeah.
Campo is.
Shout out to everybody out there that knows anything about Don Pedro Albizu Campos,
Or even the young lords over
or
here.
even the
For
young lords. You know,
real.
You know?
if you guys
Lolita
wanna know.
Lebron, like
Lolita
all
Lebron.
that
I
I
was
saw, and I'm just
very proud
like,
of her.
oh my God.
She's free right now too. So God
Yeah.
bless her.
I encourage everyone to go out and get this book called The War on Puerto Ricans.
Thank you. The
Yes.
War on all
We-
Puerto Ricans.
We
It is-
preach this.
It's
It-
all over my social media. It's all over.
It's written in comic book style, but it is amazing.
Mhm.
And you not only learn about what is going on in Puerto Rico, but you definitely open your eyes to how the US government systemically broke even our own homelands.
Right.
You don't have to
100%.
be Puerto Rican to relate to this book.
Right.
100%.
Another thing
I'm
that
proud of you for saying that. You don't even
Because,
understand.
like- Yeah.
We promote that book wherever we go.
We meet Puerto Ricans who don't know about it, you know?
Yeah,
And
it's one. I think it's like a Bible for us almost, you know, because in order to understand what's going on now too, you really have to read this and understand what's been going on.
Yep.
and it finally gives you a one-stop shop of everything that's happened and cited.
Yeah.
So people can't just say it's he, say she. No. Here's the truth. They called the savages. They
Yep.
sterilized our women. They
Yes.
they
Thank you,
birth
JP
control.
Morgan.
You know, birth control was tested on our women.
Yep.
you know?
And Puerto Rico wasn't the only island that this happened to, because even in Peru,
Right.
Alberto Fujimori, who is a Japanese Peruvian president in the 90s, he sterilized a group of women in Peru. He did the same
Same
thing.
Yeah.
He took a lot of our resources.
Right.
The U.S. opened that door for that to happen because now he's in jail.
Wow.
The U.S. opened that door. The U.S. opened that door for shit like that to happen in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
The U.S. opened the door for shit like that to happen in Venezuela, in Colombia, in Bolivia, what's going on in Bolivia right now, in Peru right now. The people are going against Congress. It came out to light that the Congress is extremely corrupt.
Right.
Some of us already knew that.
Right.
From the Alan Garcia days in the 80s. Because Alan Garcia became a president twice, in Peru. But it's like, the blindfold has now been cut.
Right.
We are witnessing a revolution.
I think this is the era of what things that were in the dark are definitely coming up to into the light now. The truth is finally starting to surface. And I think, hey, no better time to be alive than right now.
Definitely.
Definitely
go out and get that book, The War on Puerto Ricans, and also behold a pale white horse.
Yes, ma'am. He actually predicted 9/11, and they killed him right after he predicted 9/11.
Yep.
Okay, he predicted it in August. He died in
November. He sheds light.
Very important book. Old book.
Yep.
Very important book.
He sheds light on Kennedy's assassination.
You're honored.
You definitely want to look at that because it will open your eyes to a lot of shit that they're not telling us.
You just mentioned two of the most important. These two books. One shaped my life when I was younger. Okay, one finished shaping my life now, and that was with the war.
I remember first reading that book. I read it twice. First reading that book. I remember having conversations with my dad because my dad was also, when he lived in Peru, he had a government position. He was also part of this political group called Apristas, who are now corrupt.
Oh my goodness!
And I remember talking to him, and he was pretty much the only person that I could talk to about like political shit. But every time I talked to him, I remember turning up the volume from the radio, and I would be like, communist XYZ, and I'm all for, Viva la Revolución. And my dad asked me about like democracy, and I'm like, fuck that, I'm a communist. And still like not clearly knowing, but I always knew how the U.S. was corrupt, is corrupt. So, after all this, how has your art helped you?
And can I get a little more explanation?
So, how has your art thus far shaped you as a person?
In terms of documentary or in terms of
everything? Everything plus now the documentary.
Oh man, that's hard. There's definitely with the documentary it started with Boston. So the Boston hip hop scene was definitely almost more woke than like the other scenes I've been part of. So like the leaders of the Boston hip hop scene was like Oompa, who's like leading the LGBTQ.
Shout out to Oompa.
Shout out to Oomp. Leading LGBTQ and everything, all that's in her lyrics. On top of being an orphan and racial inequalities and going to school and going to university and seeing like this isn't the way and giving these messages in her music. Then there's people like Cliff Notes and Good Day and Anson.
Shout out Good Day.
Shout out Good Day. He's a reggae artist from Ethiopia who lives in Boston.
Ooh.
He's amazing.
It's so diverse. Like what he was involved in.
It was just like
beautiful, man.
It was the first time where I'm the only Puerto Rican now. So I brought something.
Right.
I brought something somewhere else versus in New York, you're around somebody somewhere is at least some kind of part of Puerto Rican, or they had a patela in their
Or they're
life,
sort of Rican.
So yeah, they're
Yeah.
Puerto Rican.
I'm definitely Puerto Rican by way of
That's
visiting and way of eating.
That's something I promote for anybody who's not from PR. We always say, listen, you're Puerto Rican, you know.
So yeah, being there and seeing, okay, these people are promoting messages on marginalized issues, and now my work by adjacent to it is promoting and is being more aware as well, and I'm learning as I'm with them, And then I did the the exhibition, Unapologetic, celebrating activists in the music scene, where we had a few, we had Travis McCoy, who was from Gym Class Heroes, who talks about mental health for some of his music.
Yeah, because he went through it.
Yeah, and who I was able to photograph at one point, a couple other artists, but aside from him and like maybe two other celebrity artists, everything else was local artists who were making a scene, who's making so much noise, and then they perform live, and they showed me a lot of love there, and I saw
That kind of helped you.
yeah, that helped me say,
help.
okay, I'm doing something right, because she said, because a lot of times, as a local artist and as somebody who's on their come up, you may not have the money for the exposure you need. So if you having a team and appreciating that team helps you move forward. And she said something that stuck with me for the rest of my life is, you made us feel and look like gold with my photography. And then I was like, all right, so I have to keep on this wave, because before I was doing EDM, and
which has no meaning. It's
it's fun and a lot of it's good and it's a cool time, but it's like, a lot of times I'm the only person of color in a room of 8,000 people,
All right.
But now I'm surrounded by people who look like me, and I don't have to think twice about how I dress when I go here, And
you're dealing with something with some real substance too.
Yeah, and real messages.
Right.
So then from there, what Kenny says is, I finally chose to do my own project.
Right.
This
was a big was a big brother to a little brother conversation that I used to have with him from time to time.
Because as a photographer, I'm using my vision to make somebody else's vision come alive. And now this time it was like, we're doing something for our people. And still I'm doing, like, even though it's my own project, my idea and my goal with this is that the Boricuas on the island, they view it, they see it, and they say, hey, we feel heard. If I make no money, if I make negative dollars on this, if my people on the island feel heard and feel represented, I am successful, I am wealthy.
Right.
Yes.
At that point. And I think that's how it shaped me, is things need a message. It's not just a dollar anymore, Of course you need to eat, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my soul,
And this wasn't done for any type of profit.
No, this was a dream, and we said, can we do it? Let's do it.
We had a little GoFund and
crowdfund, yeah,
and just people who just believed in us, just
directing
us to like the next part of like, even if it was interviews or whatever, it's like one it was like what you call that, word of mouth type of.
Yeah, and I guess you should touch on how did it shape you, and then we'll get into like.
Yes, tell me, Kenny, how did this shape you? Because
how did it shape
you know, like, you're a multi-talented artist who help people, with their creation.
I definitely I seen what he wanted to do from the first day that he brought it up. Me being me, I'm like, I'm looking at promotion, I'm looking at what could catch the people, blah, blah, blah. What caught me was Maria Se Fue. Now that's a song,
Yes.
Maria Se Fue, right?
Yeah.
How perfect would it be that would call this Maria Se Fue? It kind of gives you almost like a rhythmic feel into it already, without you even knowing. But what it did for me was, with my eye, I have like a different kind of eye. I look at the world as art. It could be from a crowded room talking. I can find the rhythm in the room. kind of made my eye and my ear a little bit more keen. Um, so now, after going through all this stuff, I'm very picky now of what I'm putting in my ears, what I'm putting in my visual now. You know, if things kind of turn me off, if I see the negatives, I just don't watch it anymore. Before I was a little bit more like I would allow myself to dib and dab in the bullshit. Still, now it's like what I walked away from is that I realized how delicate life is, but then in the same sentence, how powerful it is. So we really need to embrace that. Uh, Another thing that I walked away from is mental health. Mental health has been such a big issue that's been swept under the rug. You know, do not think that you don't have something going on with you. I promote anybody, bro, to go out there and get checked out because we're going through stuff that we don't even realize that we're going through because it's kind of been embedded through us through generations and generations, and we feel like that's the normal. It's not the normal.
And there's a reason why there's a negative stigma on people of color, especially men of color, to not get checked out.
To get
Because
checked out.
you're not a man if you go through. We got to defeat that.
Stop being macho.
Exactly. You got to defeat that. The Young Lords on their 13 points was one of their points was to defeat machismo
Yes.
and toxic masculinity. So
Because your heart muscle is way more stronger than your chest muscles, guys.
Yes.
So you know, and that's something that coming. So seeing on the island, seeing people. Okay, so like his nephew, my brother's nephew is about 11 years old. He's affected. You know, every storm, every time it rains and stuff like that. You know, he's under the bed. He's affected his studies, affected a lot of stuff. You know, and we. What I'm trying to say is that naturally we can have something going on with us. Imagine going through something tragic like this. You know. So there's no doubt about it that there's like most of the island is going through something, you know.
Definitely.
So I would love to see the people get more help on that on the island, you know.
And I think personally, we kind of had this conversation where we felt healed, you know?
Yeah.
We felt healed. Like there would be times where we're driving 4 hours and like on the fifth hour, can you look over to me? I'll be lying to you if I'm not having the time of my life.
Yeah.
You know? Because we're meeting people and
We put a lot of hard work into this, and let me tell you, we knew it was hard work, but I'll be lying if I tell you that it felt like hard work. It felt like we were just learning and learning and learning, you know?
it was like what's next?
Yeah, we wake up the next day and it's like if
Where
we
we
didn't
going?
have an interview, it was like, okay, we'll go to the beach, but we'll go and reminisce the whole time of what if not just the interview that we did last night, but of everything that we've been going through. And it was a hell of a learning experience, you know.
It was life lessons. We say that people you know, in hip hop culture, when somebody's telling you something that you're gonna take away for the rest of your life, they're dropping a jewel.
Right.
So we went away with a treasure chest, you know?
Oh my goodness.
And you know, I think we were one of the first people who knew about the Bieques hospital. So, you know, we found that out in January. She was one of the first
Right.
interviews. And
Shout out
then
to
it
Luce.
didn't become mainstream until the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember learning about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff, you know, and it's a shame, you know, but one thing that the hurricane did do was open up a can of worms.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to like truth and like stuff that was being hidden all this time, you know. And people are very more vocal now, I feel like, and want to let you know what they know now. When as before it was like almost like, you know, they'll feel like they'll get in trouble for, you know, spreading the truth, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame them, you know. When you look at the history, political prisoners and everything, we've been getting locked up and being exiled for saying the truth all our lives. You
Even
know?
Residente.
Yeah.
He got exiled from the island for saying something against the governor.
I remember that.
So the time is now.
Oscar Torres from Chicago.
Say what you gotta say, whatever you know that can help, you know. Preach it, you know, spread it, you know, let your kids know, let your nieces and nephews know. You know, it's not just us, you know, it's the younger generations, you know, that we have to prep for because don't think another Hurricane Maria is not coming.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know, once
we interviewed a statistician
Mm-hmm.
from Coamo who said him and his team.
Oh yeah, he predicted the whole hurricane. Oh,
he had the PhD. He has a PhD in statistics. And
has a
him and
book
his
out and
team.
everything.
Dr. Luis. He said if I believe by 2024, a hurricane even harder than Maria will hit the island.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't, we'll be good for the next 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's insane, and like you see the PTSD. Like
you see
your
it.
younger brother when it was a crazy thunderstorm out of nowhere, and
It blacked out the house. We were in the kitchen that
it
day.
hit the house with we got hit with lightning. The house got hit with lightning.
My house actually got hit with lightning.
And his little brother's covering his ears. Your father's like has to hold him, and you could see the emotion, and it's heart wrenching.
And it was in the mix of talking about something like, if you believe in spirituality, believe in energy and stuff like that. We were in a conversation that was deep, and the freaking lightning just hit the house.
And to jump to a little more recent, when Dorian was gonna hit.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only one on the island at that time. My brother was back here, and I remember having the conversation, and we're all scared. We're like, tomorrow it could be lights out.
Yeah.
It could be lights out for God knows how long.
No, it could be this whole thing all over again.
And my heart is broken and crying. I'm going through like Walmart. I'm like, let me just get some water. Sold out. Everything's empty under. And you see where you can only they have somebody saying only 3 bottles of water per family, or three cases of water per family. That's it.
Jesus
and
Christ.
Then I went to get gas the next day. No gas anywhere, and the hurricane didn't hit yet.
Mm.
And mind you, it you did get like some type of rain or whatever, but it wasn't nothing that they expected. But now it could be parlor tricks too, because the government, since they run the media, they could tell you, oh, guess what? We're gonna prepare for it. But it's just to get the stuff out the stores.
Yeah.
Everything is sales. Everything is,
I mean, like,
money,
with the way that I saw, Dorian was supposed to hit Puerto Rico. And somehow it just
So how did
turned.
It
turned.
If it ain't a higher force or weather bombs or something, I mean, God knows what's
going
on.
Thank God.
Almost miraculous the way that it turned.
Right, because they were prepping them. We were over here shitting bricks for them already.
Yeah.
Because we're not recovered over there.
They're not. No, that's what
we
ran
have
through my mind.
We have a dam that's cracked.
Oaxaca.
Another hit. That thing is gonna flood 3 towns, bro.
Yo. What do you hope to leave for generations to come?
One thing that I do hope it does is it prepares the next generation for, God forbid, if they have to go through anything like this, like that's definitely something that I wanted to leave behind. I want that to be like a main thing, because education is everything. Preparation is everything, If you're not educated, why, well enough, then you're not going to be prepared for what's going to come, So I hopefully these stories, just like we were being schooled almost, because we went through a situation where we had to go every 24 hours with water in Aguadilla, and the stories that we had, helped us.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's education is the key, and proper education will help you prepare in the best way for anything that's coming,
For me, it's 2 things. It's to properly document the mark that Hurricane Maria left on the island. It is, if you look at the documentary trailer, that's like an intro as well that we put on YouTube. It shows that the casualties is higher than both Hurricane Katrina and the World Trade Center combined.
Mm.
But these are 2 things that you can't go a month without hearing it somewhere on passing, But who talks about Maria, who isn't Puerto Rican?
Yeah. When you say it like that, you get the picture, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why isn't it promoted like that? Why? How come when we talk about Maria, we don't hear it in that form where it hits us here.
It's the longest blackout in American history. It's the third largest blackout in the world, but it's swept under the rug, just like everything else that America's done to Puerto Rico. So this documentary, I want it to be, hey, remember us. Remember what we went through and remember what we survived, and we are still here. We are still here. Despite everything that the Puerto Rican people have gone through, they still come back up. The warrior spirit has never left them.
Yeah, the Taino warrior spirit is in us. It will never go away.
And
It's in our DNA.
And the second thing is that you can pursue any dream possible. As cliche as it sounds, my brother and I sounded nuts. I sounded absolutely nuts when I'm telling people I'm gonna leave my, a decent job to go to an island and just figure it out along the way. We had maybe, like, by the time I was quitting my job, maybe I had 2 interviews lined up. It was word of mouth, It was word of mouth. It was like, your abuela's niece's friend from the barbershop, like just word of mouth, just contacting each other. And I'm not fluent in Spanish, and I'm contacting people who only speak Spanish, or getting them in contact with Kenny to book each town, and just keep going. And there was times where, we're 40 towns in, we're like, all right, we have nothing lined up, let's hit. So when we had days where we weren't doing interviews, it was like I hit the books and I'm finding people on social media. And it's people, you know how older people can be, to 80 years old, letting 2 strangers into their living room to talk about something that's extremely sensitive.
Oh,
and then afterwards give us a hug and thank us. Like,
allowing us to have you touch on something that's so, like, we knew because we see, but no, individually, personally, them going back into their memories, because this is something that they kind of like pushed
try
on
to suppress.
just to move forward, so now they're allowing us to let them
To
trigger
dig deep.
Yeah, because
Which
I
is
mean, like,
crazy,
one
too.
thing that I have come to know about the older generation is when things are traumatic, if there's PTSD behind it, it's definitely something that gets swept under the rug and not spoken about because of pride and
100%.
vulnerability.
Yes. And I think it's very visible in the older generation. Mental health is a thing
It's a
that's
big
been
thing.
like,
And they don't want to talk about.
you can't
'Cause
talk about it.
PTSD.
It's PTSD. It's a range, bipolarism, untouched depression,
Depression is a
bunch of
big
things
thing.
that they don't have the vocabulary for.
Yeah.
We're just learning the vocabulary for it. We're learning that you can get help and that it's okay to get help. So, little by little, this generation now is defeating these negative stigmas. And I don't think it's until the following generation that hopefully they can be good. We're all walking around with some kind of baggage.
Yeah.
Right.
So, looking back on your growth, things you have accomplished, things that you're going to accomplish, would you change anything?
I think my brother and I are both on the same mindset. We don't believe in regret. We don't believe in regret. Everything, the universe is too vast for anything to happen by coincidence. Despite if it's like the lowest of lows that you ever hit. Like, this year was definitely the hardest year of my life. But we pushed through it. We pushed through every, like, we're talking about, there's a study that says there's 10 of the most universal stressful things you could possibly go through. I went through at least 2 of them this year. And we pushed through it. And Kenny was right there. like, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I wish, it gets a little sensitive. I wish my father was still here
Yeah, rest in peace.
because he passed away as we created the documentary,
Right.
and he passed away right when he started believing in us. But it gave us whatever it was, and the reason he had to go. We finished. We still finished. It hit us hard. It hit us like a ton of bricks, and
Yeah.
you'll never be the same afterwards. But we still finished, and whatever that reason is, we'll figure out at the end of the journey. But it was meant to happen for whatever reason.
Yep, because we didn't get this far just to get this far.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, y'all, it's time for that One Piece, not to be confused with that wildly popular anime we all know and love. This is that one piece of advice that you would give to a younger you.
Oh,
So let's start with you, Leo. What piece of advice would you give to a younger you?
I think it would be definitely start sooner than later in terms of your photography and videography and creative vision. And education is not always the answer in terms of school. I was big on always wanting to go to college, got my master's and everything. But what makes me happy at the end of the day and the things I've learned was all self-taught. Or I learned through just people living,
Mm.
and that's probably something. It's just make sure there's no reason why your financial future is that decision is made at I was like 16 at the time. I graduated early, so 16 at the time, signing
Whoop.
off on something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, signing off on something that like
It's just the protege right here.
yeah that change that that changes your life.
Mm.
So that would be the one piece.
And you, Kenneth?
I I live by like 3 sayings, and it's like don't ever be anything but yourself. All right, never stop dreaming and never stop believing. So those are the 3 things that I preach that to my kids now. I preach that to the youth. Don't be anybody but yourself.
Mm.
Okay, you be yourself, and I'm talking about to a quadrillion%. All right, don't let anybody knock you off your lane. You stay in your lane, because what's meant for you is gonna come for you. But
Facts.
if you're busy being somebody else or
Mhm.
living life the way somebody else wants you to, you will never reach that. It will never reach you.
Facts.
Okay? But a thing for the youth is never stop dreaming. Never stop dreaming. And when you wake up, never stop believing.
Mm.
All right? Because you can make those dreams come true. Okay?
So, Leo and Kenny, put us on. What can we expect from both of you this year?
Well,
This year coming?
2020.
Definitely.
It's definitely this. The documentary is gonna be out. I'm hoping to do. There's a lot of things that we want to put into motion. I definitely want to do a gallery, including showing the movie, because as a photographer, we collected portraits of everybody we interviewed,
Yeah.
Mm.
and those photos tell a story all their own.
Mhm.
So what I hope for you guys to see in the future of this year will be the documentary being out that tells a story of the people by the people, because it's not my story to tell, it's the Boricuas story to tell
Mhm.
with the gallery.
Kenny?
Definitely this year, just working towards pushing the documentary, which I have a great feeling that it's gonna build its own momentum and just take off by itself, because it's sort of how it was created the same way.
Mm.
Um, but for the first time, I think in my life, I'm looking towards something that I have a big part in, And I'm just proud to see this baby start crawling,
Yeah.
and start walking. And I know for sure it's gonna start running. So it's like, my focus is totally on Maria Se Fue, my brother Leo Graphics brand. This is something that didn't happen overnight. This is something that's been, we've been working on for a while. And I think that nothing but good is gonna come out of this. So I'm very proud. Let me tell you something. If one person sees it and gets something out of it, I think we've accomplished something. So if it reaches the mass, it's only more better for us.
I love that. I love that. Bueno, guys, we have reached the end of this episode, but before I bid you all adieu, I want to pose a question to you all, mi gente. This week, I want to ask, Oye, mi gente, what is your proudest achievement? Piénsalo. Feel free to leave your insight and answers in the comment and review sections. That's it for this week's episode. I want to give a big thank you to Leo and Kenny for joining me today. You guys are amazing. Your energy is amazing. What you're creating is amazing, and it is necessary. Thank you for the huge contribution you have made. People are gonna look back at this, and they're going to see themselves and believe that they can achieve anything. Go out there and get it, because to quit your job and give your time to creating something so beautiful for your people, there's someone out there right now probably thinking on how to do the same thing.
Yes. Well, we hope we could definitely help them with a little motivation there.
Yeah.
And we want to thank you for opening up your platform.
Exactly.
Thank you for letting
platform.
us speak. We appreciate you a lot, and best of luck with
Thank
everything.
you.
And thank you for your energy. Your energy is everything.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Incredible. Top notch.
Remember to follow us at OMG Podcasts on Instagram. We are available on all your favorite streaming platforms. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a comment in the review section. Also follow at Dike Media on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to know more about the Dike Media Network and what we do, you can check out the entire Dike Media family on dikemedia.com. Kenny and Leo, where can we reach you guys, and where can we find the trailer to this amazing documentary?
So on Instagram, you can find me at Leographic, LeoGraphic, at Maria Se Fue Doc, DOC. And the trailer, if you go onto YouTube, you could go, it's Maria Se Fue intro trailer. And
Subscribe
you can
on the...
you can subscribe on the YouTube, and as well as you can find out more information and portraits on leographicphotography.com.
Basically, if you want to get in contact with me, you could just get in contact with my brother. With anything that has to do with the documentary, my private stuff is my private stuff. But definitely, if you guys need to get in contact with me for whatever reason, you could definitely contact my brother, because we're walking, with right foot same time, left foot same time. So we're working as one. So
Two
very
sides
proud
of the same coin.
That's right.
That's beautiful.
Very proud of this man right here.
Bueno. Ciao.
Ciao.